listening to the Blue Raider Podcast, presented by Gold's Gym of Tennessee. Your all-access pass to everything Middle Tennessee sports, game recaps, player spotlights, and the latest from the heart of Blue Raider Nation. Now, here's your host, Jay Golden.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Blue Raider Podcast presented by Gold's Gym Tennessee. Today's Tuesday episode, we're going to recap that heartbreak on Saturday there at Floyd Stadium and what was a wild, lightning-delayed game. Joining us will be MTSU Athletic Communications Multimedia journalist Emmy Fazenbaker to break down that game, as well as look ahead to the first Conference USA Road Contest in Kennesaw this Saturday, so you don't want to miss any of that. But before we do that, let's thank our sponsor. Before we get into the episode, I need to thank our sponsor. Gold's Gym has been the mecca of fitness since 1965, and to celebrate their 60-year anniversary right now, you can get a month-to-month membership for just $19.65 bi-weekly. That's no commitment, full access to all 16 Gold's Gym Tennessee locations, and top-tier equipment to help you level up your fitness no matter your sport. But here's the deal. This offer is only available online, and it ends when the summer does, so don't wait. Go to goldsgym.com and lock it in today. Gold's Gym Tennessee. Train like a legend, no strings attached. Now, let's get back to the episode. Joining the Blue Raider Podcast, it is MTSU multimedia journalist Emmy Fazenbaker. Emmy, thanks for joining us.
Of course. I'm so excited. Thanks for having me on. I'm ready to talk some football.
Yeah, finally got you on the show. If you didn't already get your intro to Emmy, we did a summer series episode with her. You can get all the lowdown on her and how she ended up here in Murfreesboro. Also, the little backstory of how she is a red trader now. We don't say WKU, but she's a red trader now. She's wearing blue. We're happy to have you. But Emmy, let's dive into it. Saturday was a wild game. This is your first year here. MTSU fans are very accustomed to the lightning rain delay that we experienced a lot last year, but a lot of adversity faced there on Saturday. Things felt up and up there in the third, and it just kind of fell apart late.
Yeah, I mean, for us to considering that we had over 2 hour rain delay, luckily, in my opinion, I'm glad that it happened in the very beginning of the game because it didn't really steal too much of our momentum in the beginning. I mean, we came out after the rain delay in our first two possessions, we scored. So phenomenal. But like you said, yes, and what Coach Mason has said the whole entire season so far is we have to play 4 quarters of football, and we just haven't yet. We've made it to 2, we've made it to 3, but we have not played a full 60 minutes worth of football. And I think that right now that's their main issue, and that's what they're really trying to work on. Like many other teams across the country, it's just really making sure that you are staying focused and you're grinding it out all 60 minutes on the turf. So
I feel like, and you talked about it, playing a full 4 quarters. When we went up 28-21, we took the lead. We have a chance. And again, I'll do my darndest not to get on my soapbox, but you get the stop you need. You're going to get the football, have a chance to go up by 2 scores, the best the offense has looked all year, and then you have a personal foul. It just sets you back. And prior to that happening, I'm setting up graphics. I'm sitting next to my guys over at Go Middle. We're writing stuff already about we've done it. We're gonna get back on this win train. We're gonna win 2 games in a row, and that penalty just seemed to set them back a mile. And I don't know if you felt the same, but I felt like prior to that one penalty, albeit hindsight's 2020, but that penalty pushed them down the field. They ended up tying the game. It just took the winds out of the sail, and I thought for once the offense looked great, and that was been the big question mark. And it just kind of sucks because, like I said, it just snatched any momentum you seem to have, and they just never really recollected themselves, all because of that one penalty.
And what most people say in football, it always comes down to 2 or 3 plays. And I think that one singular play is what cost us the whole entire game. And I know a lot of people would say that. I mean, we had 12 penalties the whole entire game. And that was tied 4th for the most penalties in a game at MTSU. And I think it's very frustrating because me and Joe Dubin, we talked about it. There's so much potential. There's so much raw talent, and the boys can feel it. The team can feel it. So many of the community can feel it. And I think that's why it's so frustrating, is because they keep shooting themselves in the foot with these penalties. So that's why, again, I think they just have to stay focused on the little things and just keep attacking what Coach Mason keeps saying. you need to attack all 60 minutes, but you need to make sure that you're doing it disciplined and you're doing it in the right way. And I think that's what's so frustrating, is because you're right. Everybody 28-21, we're like, finally, like they're getting so many points on the board. They're really, you could see that they were really having that chemistry. I mean, for Nick Vadiato, that was the most that he had on any single target. He had so many targets that he hit with so many different receivers, and even with our running game too. So I think they're tapping into what they really are going to do even farther down in the season. I think it stinks, but at the same time, I mean, it's just learning and growing, and they're going to get better and they're going to keep striving. And again, like what Coach May said today in the press conference, I mean, we have our good moments, you have great moments, but the moments that are lacking, you just got to grow from it, and you just got to keep pushing. So
it just feels like those bad moments can just weigh this team down. And a recurring theme on this show has been all season is just consistency. I know that's a word that you use. That's a word that we're going to use a lot today, I'm sure, but just the consistency. But again, to go back on it, the one downside was the offense. And for once they looked pieced together. Again, I don't know what necessarily happened, because even with Marshall tying the game up there, you still have the ball. You still have an opportunity to, again, extend that lead back out. But altogether, I think the offensive play calling looked great. That's something that I know I've nitpicked a lot, but I know Bodie Reeder is a great play designer. Many opportunities to get guys out in open space. We've seen even the run game. Jaquil had that big 72-yard run after the lightning delay that we had. There's so many big explosive plays that happened on Saturday that we haven't seen all year. So what that tells me is the potential is there. You said it. The playmakers are there. We have another number one wide receiver, Najee Cox. I guess any wide receiver that wears a number one is destined to have a breakout season like we saw with Omari Kelly. So my suggestion to Mason, if he's ever lighthearted enough, is maybe we should just all wear number one. Let's just let's take the penalty, but let's all the guys wear number one. But it feels that way. He has 94 yards. Prior to him kind of getting shut down there late, he looked like he was destined to put himself into the record book. But the offense has come alive, and we saw it in the fourth quarter there in Reno. The offense has come alive. I guess, how do they build off of consistency as we look ahead to this Kennesaw game, where a team that's a middling defensive team in Conference USA, I mean, what do they got to do to just kind of continue that momentum they have moving into Georgia this next week?
I know with a lot of the players, it starts in practice, obviously. It's being consistent in practice, and that's going to translate onto the field when it actually matters in game time. But I think overall, it's just confidence. I think you've seen, yes, Nick has been here for 5 years, but I think for me, my first year being here, seeing him in our home opener to now, he looks so much more confident. And I think it's because they're finally meshing and they're finally, again, having that chemistry to be able to connect with each other on and off the field. And yes, like whenever we talk more about Kennesaw, they're a top-notch defense. I mean, we talked about it today again with Coach Mace. I mean, they know how to open the space. Their edge rushers are top-notch too. So I think it's going to be, a challenge. But I think the main thing is just being confident in what you're doing. And I think, again, they're starting to tap into that, and that's what's important and that's what's vital, especially with a team like this. I mean, they have so much talent. Like, we keep saying it, but it's so evident and you can see it. And I think, again, that's why it's like so frustrating, because you know that they want it just as badly as anybody else. But I think they're building, and I think like they're starting to really, really get there. I think it's just taken them some time. Like, again, a lot of teams in this country, I mean, football, it's so dynamic, and it's, so many little things can happen here and there. And I think, again, for them, like, they really are getting back to where we were hoping that they would be at the start of the season. Obviously, we're heading into the 5th week now, but
one thing too, and we've been complimentary of it all season long, is the defense. And I know we're going to get more into that later, but the defense has been good and even great at times. But at some points, we have to have the conversation about Nevada was great. Last week was great. 13 points on the road. And we even saw evidence that is a good showing. Western Kentucky put the same level of defensive pressure on Nevada this last weekend. So there's a good apples to apples comparison for Conference USA play. Because even Western struggled on the offensive side. It took a late 2 fourth quarter drives to get them into the win column. So I think the offense, as you said, like, the playmakers are there. The ability is there. They can do this, because we've seen what Conference USA's best offense did against one of the defenses we've played. But all things considered, we have to have the conversation about the defensive presence. They've given up 30+ points in 3 of the 4 games. I know for me, I have what I consider a legitimate excuse as to why that is the case. But when you look at the season as a whole, giving up 42 to Marshall when your offense put up double their yearly average, you think you win that football game because of how good the defense is. But I think for me, you just got to get the offense on the field and stay on the field. And again, we go back to that consistency conversation. The 3 and outs kill us. The defense is just, they're exhausted. Talk about Wisconsin. You have so many 3 and outs. Those guys, and the depth isn't great, but it's good enough that if you give them 7 minutes of sideline rest every quarter, you think you got yourself a chance. But at least when I look at it, that's the glaring thing. Like, the numbers are bad as far as scoring defense goes, but those guys, they're on the field all game, it seems.
Oh, you're exactly right. And you can see the fatigue a lot of times at the end of the game, but also, we don't have Alex Mitchell in there, who is a name that we talked about for so long in the preseason. He got injured in the first games. I think that has impacted us, but at the same time, they have stepped up when they needed to step up. Our interior D-line is insane. Like, yes, we don't have as much depth, but at the same time, like, they really are carrying their weight when they need to. I think, speaking for the fourth quarter against Marshall, our perimeters, our edge, it just completely, crashed and burned. I think Marshall figured out, okay, we can't go in the middle, so we're going to go on the sides. And they kind of got us there. But I think you're right. I think they are absolutely crushing it. And I think, though, whenever it comes to the end of the game, or it comes to, the end of the quarter, end of those drives, it's hard for them to keep that up because they're having to do it so often. I think that will be a continuous test for this upcoming season, but I think they're still dominating. And you can tell that they're like eating it up. Parker Hughes, Buckner, Shakai Woods, there's so many names that they continue to be vocal leaders and they continue to be dominant on the field. I think you're right. I think the fatigue and things like that is what gets them the most. But they're absolutely trying their best out there. I think, again, it's just the edge, it's the perimeter, the interior. They've got it's completely stacked. Parker Hughes, 14 tackles, and I think that might be the second game, and we are only on the 4th game that he's had that. So our defense is what a lot of times is what is making these games even more, and you're invested into it. But you're right. I think overall it's just they're tired a lot of times. So
it's hard because I try to convince the defense is good, and then again, if you don't watch the game, you take it out of context, you're like, are they good? But they are, and it's just there's so much nuance to what makes them great. And another name too, Muaz Bayard, a guy that's kind of lived up to his namesake, but he stepped in with Alex Mitchell being out, getting a lot more playing time, and for good reason. The guys played his tail off. So Alex Mitchell is another cog to the wheel that they may be missing, but to their credit, I think the front 7 has held their own. Reggie Johnson, a younger guy that's gotten his opportunity. I think he's up to 1.5 sacks this year, got one this Saturday as well. So the defense, I think when we look back and say, was the defense good? I think we'll end up saying yes, the defense was good. It was just maybe their ability to stay off the field with the consistency needed on offense. But one thing that was said in the press conference on Saturday is a win this week in Conference USA will erase a lot of bad. And that's so true, because now it doesn't matter. Those are what Mason called preseason games. We can put those in the rearview mirror. This week is a big one because now you have the opportunity to start 1-0 in a season that really matters. You're going to Kennesaw, who's coming off of an upset win at home against Arkansas State and Butch Jones. A big deal for those guys with Jerry Mack, a new head coach, a part of the Josh Heupel coaching tree. So a lot is in front of the Blue Raiders this week. When we look ahead to this game, I guess the level of excitement's got to be renewed because, again, there's so many good things you can take away from this loss that makes you think we have a shot on the road at Kennesaw.
We do have a shot. We've had a shot every single time we step onto the field. Let's be honest. We really do. I think, again, it's just taken them a while to really mesh and blend together with all these new faces that we've had come in preseason. But I think, especially when it comes to Kennesaw, they have another dual threat quarterback that we've been having to face the past 4 weeks, but another guy like Amari Odom, I mean, he had 409 yards in offense, 101 of those on the ground. So he can obviously use his legs. And I think this is going to test our defense, and they have a lot of running guys too that are going to be able to take the ball down the field too, especially in the interior. But I think, again, our defense, it's going to be a test for them. And it goes back to what we were just saying, like, can they withstand that all 4 quarters? Can they do that for a full 60 minutes? That's going to be the test for them. I know. And also with Kennesaw's defense, I mean, they have great edge rushers. They're really disciplined in that area too, just like how we are a lot of times. I mean, they have a guy that is very similar to Parker Hughes. His name's Barron Hobson. He had 14 tackles last week as well against Arizona State. So I think a lot of times when you look at it on paper, we're a very similar team in many ways, but at the same time, it's really just going to depend on who can play all 60 minutes is what we keep saying and keep going back to. And again, I think for MTSU, I think that they can do it. They've been able to do it every single time. It's just having all the pieces fit together at the same time, both offense and defense. So I'm excited, though. I'm excited for conference play to finally be here. I think this really shows the top-notch level of play that we will have, and I'm ready for 5 p.m. Central Time on Saturday.
That's right. That is when kickoff is, and it'll be on ESPN Plus for those that aren't making the trip down to Kennesaw. It is a short trip, so if you obviously have the opportunity, I fully encourage you to do so. But exciting one nonetheless. You touched on it great there with Amari Odom. Just another one of these guys that you just have to contain. And I think at times this last weekend with Carlos Del Rio Wilson at Marshall, they did a great job of containing him. You talk about being able to, but those running backs broke contain a lot in that 4th quarter. So it's going to be important. Amari, the thing that's interesting about Amari Odom and his numbers in particular is he's already top 12 in Conference USA in yards per game, and he's only played 3 games. He wasn't even the starting quarterback week 1. He took the job from Dexter Williams, and he's filled in great for Jerry Mack. The offensive scoring has obviously gone up, only scoring 9 points against Wake Forest, which is probably a game that they look back at and think they should have won.
Yep.
They go on the road at Indiana, who looks like destined to be a college football playoff team, but Merrimack, not necessarily a world beater, 27 points there, and they put up 28 against a relatively good Sun Belt defense. So much like the Blue Raiders, the Owls feel like their offense is getting a second wind with a new quarterback, something to really keep an eye on. And once again, we're going to be testing this defense if they can do it. So I'm interested to see that side of it. I don't concern myself necessarily too much on the offensive side, because I think the offense for MTSU, for that matter, they're capable. They went up against a very good Marshall defense, one of the best that Sunbelt has to offer, and put up 28 points. They did it in chunks. They even did it in a few methodical drives. So I don't think that I concern myself with what's the game plan that Bodie Reeder has to put together. It's a matter of, can they execute said game plan to the highest level, put themselves into a position to win, and keep the defense off the field. Maybe I should go back and change my keys to the game, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I feel like the more I say it, I've talked myself into that. But before we do that, the keys to the game segment is sponsored by Trevor Haggard of State Farm. And when life happens, you want someone in your corner who actually knows your name. And that's where Trevor Haggard State Farm comes in. Whether it's protecting your car, your home, or your family's future, Trevor and his team are right here in Murfreesboro, and they're ready to help. So don't just settle for some 1-800 number. Call a neighbor who cares. Call Trevor Haggard State Farm today at 615-203-5522 or visit their website at trevorismyagent.com and let them help protect what matters most. Trevor Haggard State Farm, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Now, Emmy, you've got 2 keys to the game for the Blue Raiders this week. Tell me what has to happen for them to win.
Number 1, minimize the penalties. We talked about at the beginning of this segment, they had 12 penalties against Marshall. That cannot happen this time around. They need to minimize those. They need to make sure that they're playing their best, but also playing a clean game, and that's what really matters. I think the next thing is just containing Odom. I mean, we just said it. He's dominant on the field, whether it's in the air, on the ground. He knows what he's doing. I mean, he took, like what you said, he took the place of their beginning starter at the very beginning of the season. I think really that's going to be the main thing, is just containing another dual threat quarterback. And I think a lot of times our offense feeds off of our defense. And I think that's what's really going to, just kickstart a lot of things for us, especially in the beginning of the game, is that they shut it down quickly. They play fast and they shut it down quickly as soon as they get onto that field, because that's what's going to set the tone and really let us know how it will unfold, is the very beginning for me.
For me, I took, and I think those are great. I think the minimized penalties was kind of one that, and it obviously came to fruition and reared its ugly head this Saturday. But the MTSU has been one of the more penalized teams in Conference USA collectively. And when you talk about thin margins, you have to win those. And for me, it comes from those thin margins, converting on third down. Something that MTSU is the worst in Conference USA, one of the worst in the country right now, is converting on third down on offense. And it goes back to the time of possession game. If you're able to stay on the field, convert those third downs, clearly it does something for the defense. And again, maybe I'm making this all up in my head. I'm not playing defense, but I couldn't imagine wanting to be on the field for 40 minutes. But converting third downs is going to be paramount. And then this one has been a recurring theme again all season long, keeping Vadiato upright. I think the offensive line at times did well this last week. They did allow 3 sacks. Again, Marshall's defense is good. I think sacks are going to happen. This offensive line isn't world beaters. I know I might have hyped them up a bit this preseason and maybe eating my words a little bit, but they are still better than what we saw last year. The one thing to keep in mind with Kennesaw is they have 9 sacks on the year. That's good enough for tied for second in Conference USA behind Delaware, La Tech, UTEP. But the defensive pressure is going to be there all night long. This is going to be one of the better defensive fronts we're going to be facing this year. So keeping him upright, again, building that confidence, because when Vadiato's up on his feet, he's going to compete, much like we saw at Nevada. If you're able to keep him upright, allow him to use his legs, at least buy him enough time to use his legs, the guy just makes magic happen. So convert third downs, keep Vadiato upright. I think that gives you your best chance. And next, much like Trevor Haggard can be an X factor for you and your insurance needs in car, home, your family's future, I want to hear, Emmy, there's a lot of options here, but who is the X factor for you on the Blue Raiders?
I'm going to say the entire D-line. Again, our interior has been killing it, and I think especially on the edge as well. That's what really needs to happen for our D-line. Again, what I was saying earlier, our offense feeds off our defense and vice versa as well. Don't get me wrong, but I think really if they come out and they're on their game and they are doing what they usually do, but they do it all 4 quarters, then that is going to be, I think, the deciding factor in this game entirely. And now, again, with Kennesaw, they have the quarterback, they have the running backs, they have a lot of weapons in their wide receiver room as well. They need to make sure that they're on the edge as well with containing every single element that there is to the Owls offense. So for me, I'm going to say defensive line.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to put it. Like you just, there's not necessarily a key person on that line. They all perform well. I think this team is going to do great. For me, Najee has been, again, it's the magic of the number 1 wide receiver. He wears the number 1 just like Omari Kelly did, and he's lived up to his name. I like Najee. The one thing that made him such a valuable target this last weekend is his size, his frame. That's something that Marshall lacked. They don't have size outside. Kennesaw, similar to what they had last year, they're going to be in that same boat. This is going to be a smaller defensive secondary. I think you're going to lean heavily on Najee Cox to be a big part of the offense, which, again, you could probably say that for the rest of the season. But I think particularly in this matchup, when the only way to open up that run game is to be able to find your targets outside. Najee Cox has been that guy. I still want to see more from Miles Butler. I still want to see more from a supporting cast. I know Cameron Lacey's a guy that's kind of taken a side seat since that week 1 game against Austin Peay. I think he could be a guy that would open up this playbook for Bodie Reeder. But I think most importantly, your number 1 needs to stay your number 1, and that's where Najee Cox comes in. So I think he's going to be my X factor for this week. Emmy, as we close down this conversation, I know you're close to the athletic communications department, so you're not allowed to give us score predictions or anything like that, but I'll do my part for the fans. The line opened up at 8.5, giving the Owls a slight more than touchdown favorite. It looks to be another high-scoring game according to Vegas, but I guess, Emmy, in broad terms, how do you think this game goes?
I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to come down to the wire. And I think, again, it's going to come down to who can play into the very last second to be the deciding factor of what will happen. And I think And I really, after what's happened in the past 4 weeks, I think we're finally going to play a full 60 minutes. And I think that that's going to really help us to just take it all the way home.
And really, it's such a swing game because you've got Missouri State. You're going to have a week and a half break before you get into your Conference USA midweek. This is a huge game, not just because we're talking about forgiving our wrongs thus far, but getting ahead in Conference USA is huge. You go on the road to you're on the road at Kennesaw, but you're coming back home to a team was supposed to be preseason bottom of the barrel Conference USA. So this is a chance to really feel like you've made some ground through this preseason schedule. And the 8.5 does scare me. I think Vegas always seems to know. I don't know how they always know, but they always seem to know. 8.5 scares me. I think that number's too high. I'm with you. I think this has a potential to be a very Marshall-esque game where Marshall has a touchdown late that just busts it wide open, but this could easily be a one-possession game down to the last drive. The over-under at 51.5, higher than we've seen in recent weeks. Kennesaw's offense hasn't shown signs that they can score the ball at will. I see this as another low-scoring game, somewhere in the 20s, maybe what we saw with them at Arkansas State, 28-21, 28-24, somewhere in that ballpark. I haven't even sold myself yet that MTSU can win. The biggest thing is going on the road. However, they won their only game this year on the road, so that could be something. Maybe Floyd is just a bad place to be at right now. I don't know, but I like the Raiders' chances in this one because of all these extra pieces that are sticking out. Kennesaw didn't look good against Merrimack. They didn't look good against Wake Forest particularly either. So I think that Kennesaw still is ironing some things out. This win last week probably convinces Vegas that they're that good, but we'll see. I like Kennesaw on this one, but I'm certain MTSU feels that they can keep this one close and even potentially swing it late, just like you hope to against Marshall. But Emmy, I appreciate you for joining us. I know we're going to expect a lot out of you in the coming days leading up to kickoff, much like we've seen all year long. Real quick, before we wrap up here, what can the Raider fans look forward to seeing on social media from you in the coming days?
So it's Monday that we're recording this right now. So I have my Blue Raider notebook that comes out every Monday, but then I have my Raider report that comes out every Friday as well. That is just breaking down and previewing the game ahead. So all that will come out on Friday as the boys head to Georgia to Kennesaw State. And then during the game, usually I'm like trying to live tweet or just making sure that all socials are, updated with different clips and different highlights, certain things like that. So yes, that's, as of right now, that's what we have going, specifically for football, just with making sure that they're getting covered and that everything is, just happening whenever the game starts and then whenever it ticks down, and we'll see how it ends up.
Well, Emmy, one thing, too, I want to highlight that notebook. As a podcast that used to cover everything, it's just so hard. And Emmy does it all with her notebook. I know that volleyball and soccer's 1-0 in Conference USA. They're getting to the heat of their schedule. Volleyball is just right around the corner. So you want to tune into those kind of things. And, of course, to preview us ahead, we've got a few of those athletes and coaches joining us in the coming weeks. But, Emmy, I appreciate you taking the time to join us this week.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.
And thanks again to Emmy, and thanks to you, the listener, for joining into today's episode. Again, on Friday, prior to kickoff, we are going to have our Behind Enemy Line segment with Kai Millette of the Owls Chat podcast to preview Kennesaw State. So you don't want to miss that. And so you don't, subscribe. YouTube, Blue Raider Pod. You got Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, at Blue Raider Pod, where all of these are going to be streaming. So make sure you're following, subscribe so you don't miss them. And until next time, go Blue.